Hello, my dear friends. Today is Friday. Actually, I was a bit confused whether I should declare it as Friday or Saturday, because after half or 45 minutes it is going to be as per Gregorian calendar or time measurement method. It is going to be Saturday, but in the way of traditional Indian belief or panchang, it is going to be Friday till tomorrow's sunrise. So let's say it is still Friday. And how are you, all of my listeners and my friends? I'm asking you, are you have you done a great job in this week or not? If not, then please be assured that each and every life is struggling. Even the masters, the maestros, they had struggled, because behind each and every struggle there is a divine decision why we are suffering. We are thinking that we are suffering. Even today, when I was talking to my parents, when I was talking to, especially to my father, I think each and every girl is very close to their father. So then I was asking him that I am doing that and this, I am getting this kind of hurdles, why I am facing this. And he was trying to calm me down. And after that, when I just returned back to my uh, resting place, I may say. This is a temporary one, and we are all in our temporary resting place. So then I just remembered that, okay, my friends, my listeners are waiting for me, so I had to record this. And then when I remembered that today is Friday, so this is the day where we where we are dipping ourselves, where we are submerging ourselves to the life of masters. So for more than 8 weeks or more than that, we are reading the life of Shri Ramkrishna Paramhansa Dev. And then I remembered, okay, he was also suffering, he was also struggling. So who am I actually to complain? Who am I to actually think that only I am suffering? So we are actually going through a path, and divinity surely has some plan for each and every one of us. For each and every one of us. Let's believe in it, and let's start to read the story or the actual incidents which happened in the life of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa Dev. Still now, what we have seen, that how the dais where he had to become from where he became actually the Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa Dev, the maestro, the master of all from the little kid Gadadhar. So that stage, how it was built, how it actually uh, profoundly formed or established by a lady who was considered as the lady from the lower caste, who was from the lowest most caste which has been assigned at that time. Though the actual caste system was a different one, it was actually based upon the work what you have chosen to work, and how you have performed upon that was the casting system. But it has degraded its way in the time frame. So after this brief recapitulation, let's start to dig into the next part. So the day fixed for the installation of the statue of the goddess was May 31st, 1855, a sacred day known as Snan Yatra. Snan Yatra means the bathing rituals for the god. Usually it may be, maybe I am really misinformed, it may be for like Shri Krishna, the Krishna, or it may be for any deity, depending upon the tithi or nakshatra. So everything was ready, and the Rani's heart was filled with joy at the thought that the fulfillment of the mother's promise to manifest herself there and to bless her was so close at hand. But at the last moment, certain unforeseen obstacles arose which seemed to destroy her plans. Sorry, actually I have mispronounced it. Sorry. But at the last moment, certain unforeseen obstacles arose which seemed to destroy her plans. In this bustle of preparation for the dedication, an important fact had been overlooked. The Rani was a Sudra by caste, and therefore no orthodox Brahmin would officiate as her priest or partake of sacramental food in her temple. For according to the orthodox custom, it was degradatory to a Brahmin to worship for a Shudra or to accept gifts from him. The Rani was in a dilemma, for not only could there be no installation ceremony without a priest, but a purpose she had secretly cherished for a long time of making an offering of cooked rice to her beloved Kali would be defeated as well. For the rite of offering cooked rice was essentially a Brahminical one, not shared with the other castes, and if no priest could be found to dedicate the temple or to make the offering for her, things would be at a deadlock. But she was a woman of courage and determination, not to be daunted by even the greatest difficulties, and she sought the sanction of the Shastras, writing to many Pandits for opinions. None of the replies was favorable. The Rani was in despair. The plans of a lifetime seemed to be coming to naught. It was at this moment that a letter came from Ramkumar in which he expressed the opinion that if the Rani made a gift of the Kali temple to a Brahmin, endowing it with sufficient injunctions of the endowing it with the sufficient funds for maintenance, it would be in keeping with the injunctions of the Shastras, and no Brahman would be considered degraded by acting as priest or partaking of the food offered there. Though there was some grumbling amongst the Pandits at this opinion, the Rani was much pleased, not at the liberality of the views expressed, but also at the opportunity it gave her to carry out her plans. Indeed, such an opinion was heretical, and it required great courage on Ramkumar's part to voice it. But the Sastric sanction alone was not sufficient. The Rani had to get a Brahmin sufficiently learned in the scriptures to perform the puja ceremony in accordance with their injunctions. There were many difficulties in the way because of the rigidity of the caste system. A temple built by a Shudra woman was regarded with suspicion, and no high caste Brahmin would worship there, to say nothing of accepting the office of priest. Even though the Kali temple had been given over to a Brahmin, one acting as priest for a Shudra woman would lose caste with his fellow Brahmins. It was Mahesh Chandra Chatterjee of Shishore, a friend of Ramkumar and an employee of Rani Rashmani, who cut the Gordian knot. He appointed Kshetranath, his elder brother, priest to the Radhakanta temple, knowing that if one Brahmin were willing to accept office there, others would follow his lead. To find a priest for the Kali temple was more difficult. In this extremity, he thought of Ramkumar, whose scholarship and devotion he knew. But the difficulty with him was that he came of a very orthodox family that had adhered rigidly to the rules and practices enjoined by the scriptures. But there was no time to lose, for the day of the concentration sorry conservation conse- uh, consecration. Sorry for this mispronunciation, but there was no time to lose. For the day of the consecration of the temple and the installation of the goddess was drawing near. Accordingly, Mahesh went to Rani Rashmani and asked her to send to Ramkumar through him an invitation to become priest of the Kali temple. The Rani wrote to Ramkumar as directed, saying that as it was due to his advice and suggestions that the consecration of the temple to Kali had been made possible, she depended upon him to extricate her from another awkward position, that of having no competent person to perform the opening ceremonies. She said further that such a sacred and responsible task could not be entrusted to every Brahmin, that a pious and learned person such as he was indispensable. Armed with this letter, Mahesh went to see Ramkumar and explained the situation. He asked Ramkumar to take the place only until a competent priest could be found. Ramkumar agreed on this condition, but charmed by the kind and respectful treatment of the Rani and Mathur, he remained there till his death. Till his death. The day of consecration arrived. The ceremony was performed with great pomp. Thousands of beggars were fed sumptuously. Learned Brahmins were invited from afar to grace the occasion, and they were duly honored. It is said that the Rani spent altogether 9 lakhs of rupees for the construction of the temple and its opening ceremony. She further bought a large zamindari for 2 lakhs and 26,000 rupees in the district of Dinajpur from uh, Trail, from Troilokunath Thakur and set it income apart for the maintenance of the Kali temple by a deed of gift which she executed before her death. The temple was consecrated. The Divine Mother, who is life and consciousness itself, was invoked. Sorry. Consciousness itself was invoked to be permanently present in the beautiful stone image there. Actually, this line was so overwhelming for me because it made me realize that I had an opportunity. I was blessed by her that I could visit the Dakshineswar Mandir, and there the first time when I went there, I was with my parents, and when I first saw that divine sculpture, it was such a beautiful one. What to say? So it just came into my mind. uh, if you find some time to visit there, it will be a great experience. You will find her, though as the population, the number of us has increased, now the time she has given for each of us has been reduced to like fraction of a second, but those few moments are so precious that that her beauty will be within you for rest of the life. I'm sorry for this this emotional breakdown, but I am not going to delete this part because it came when I was depicting her by her blessings and by my parents' blessings. Actually, I must say I reframe that sentence, that by her wish and by my parents' blessings. So, let's continue. The temple was consecrated. The Divine Mother, who is life and consciousness itself, was invoked to be permanently present in the beautiful stone image there. The dream of Rashmani was fulfilled, and her devoted heart was overjoyed. Her great devotion, as well as the deep reverential attitude of the gifted priest, soon made the image instinct as it were with life. The temple of Dakshineswar has ever since been a heaven of peace to many, with its atmosphere of purity, its sequestered groups and sequesters, groves and bowers, the sacred Ganges flowing by, and above all, the presence of a God man who was soon to come to wit and bless it forever. This temple has become a place of pilgrimage and a favorite resort for thousands of devoted and contemplative devotees. Even now, the lofty spires of the temples and tops of the uh, tamarisk trees are, are pointed out to strangers by the boatmen as monuments to the piety of Rani Rashmani, and the pilgrims bow their heads in the reverence before the Divine Mother and her hallowed sanctum. Sri Ramakrishna used often to tell of the events incident to the consecration ceremony to his disciples. He corroborated the stories of the Rani's arrangements for the pilgrimage to Benares, the collection of a fleet of about 100 boats filled with the necessary equipment, and the abandonment of the journey at the injunction of the Divine Mother in a dream the night before departure. He further used to say that Rani Rashmani's search for a suitable place near Bali, Uttarpara, etc., on the west bank of the Ganges, considered very holy, proved futile, as the zamindars of those places, even when offered enormous prices, refused to permit a ghat on the Ganges within their jurisdiction. He used to remark that the plot selected at Dakshineswar for the temple happened to be an abandoned cemetery and had a convex surface, which, according to the Tantras, were good features for a place of Shakti worship. He also told of how Rani Rashmani, from the beginning of the molding of the image, practiced the utmost austerity in food, sleep, and general mode of living and performed worship and japa, etc., to the best of her power, that she was forced to fix the date of consecration hurriedly on a full moon day, which was more appropriate to the worship of Vishnu than that of Shakti as the image of the goddess, which was locked up in a box for some unknown reason, was covered with a deposit of mist, and the Rani was told in a dream by the goddess to have the installation ceremony at an earlier date, as she could no longer endure the box. The master also confirmed the truth of the story that the Rani conveyed the temple to her spiritual guide to overcome the difficulties arising from her being of a low caste. He would tell of the great pomp with which the ceremony was performed, of the gorgeousness of the illumination, etc., of how the whole place rang with kirtans, dramatic performances, and recitals from the sacred books. Sri Ramakrishna, henceforth we shall call him by this more familiar name, though he enjoyed the festival, did not partake of any food in the temple, but purchased and ate a piece worth of puffed rice in the evening before his return to the toll at Jhamapukur, when he found that Ram Kumar, instead of returning to his school work, stayed on the temple. He was much disturbed. He went to Dakshineswar to ascertain the reason, and found that Ram Kumar, unable to withstand the importunities and kindness of the Rani, had accepted the permanent office of priest there. He tried to influence his brother against such a course, reminding him of his father's steadfast observance of the traditions of the Chatterjees, and telling him that he would be the first to tarnish the fair fame of their family, which had always been revered for its refusal of gifts from the Sudras, to say nothing of accepting any position from them. Ramkumar was adamant and quoted from the scriptures to justify himself, trying by every means in his power to make his brother agree with him, but to no avail. As a last resort, they drew lots after the fashion of country folk, and Ramkumar won. Accepting this as final, Sri Ramakrishna still refused to take food in the temple. At last, Ramkumar told him to take rice and vegetables from the temple stores and to do his own cooking on the banks of the Ganges. Ramakrishna yielded. From this time on, he stayed at Dakshineswar with his brother, but he continued to cook and eat his food apart for some time. He soon accommodated himself to his new surroundings, the holy atmosphere of that sequestered place, the affectionate care of his elder brother, the respect of Rani Rashmani and Mathur, and lastly his conviction of the presence of the goddess there captured his heart. Throughout his life, Sri Ramakrishna cherished a great devotion to the Ganges. He would often say, "The water of the Ganges is as pure as Brahman." Even an agnostic attains devotion if he but lives on its banks. The whole area over which the wind charged with particles of its water blows is sanctified, and the residents of that area are spiritually awakened without any effort. If any one of his devotees indulged in worldly talk or associated with worldly people, the master would ask him to drink a little Ganges water. If any sport were vitiated by the touch of an exceptionally worldly man, he would have it sprinkled with Ganges water. This devotion to the Ganges was ingrained in him from boyhood. So when Ramkumar appealed to him in the name of the Ganges, all doubts regarding the food disappeared from his mind. Some may condemn this attitude of Sri Ramkrishna towards the temple prasad, calling it bigoted, but it was nothing of the sort. It was due to his steadiness in devotion, nishtha to the ideals inculcated by his caste and family as well as by the Shastras. Nevertheless, it was this devotion to the ideal and understood at the time that eventually carried him to the point where he perceived that anything offered to and accepted by the mother must of necessity be pure. As his knowledge increased and his vision enlarged, all differentiating ideas of caste and creed automatically dropped off. What an object lesson for us is that this seemingly trifling incident. So, my dear friends, I am going to rest this reading here today. I am sorry that many places I was barged with enormous emotion. So, thank you for being with me, and I pray that whatever form you are following the Almighty, it may be Mother Goddess, it may be Allah or anything, Jesus Christ, Jehovah, anything. Just have faith on the Almighty. So till then, I must say thank you for being with me. Thank you for supporting my channel. Thank you for giving me the chance to read out these jewels so that I can also brush my belief, so that I can recheck myself also each and every day in a different point of view. So, and I must thank my parents also that they gave me their support, enormous, endless support, so that I am just doing my crazy things each and every day from my childhood until now. I am doing. So, thank you and have a good night. Good night sleep. Bye bye.